The Contract, August 3rd, 2021. Marie and I have had a falling out. She came over to my apartment yesterday carrying a piece of paper. I looked at it askance, but made tea as usual, and we settled into the chairs in my writing room. Rain was falling outside, so I lit the pellet stove. It enveloped the room in a comforting warmth. After chatting for a while about nothing in particular, I finally asked. I pointed at the paper she had placed face down on the desk. "Oh, yes, this," she said, looking down, as if she had forgotten it. She went on with forced breeziness. "It is nothing. Just a contract I need you to sign for the book we're writing. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just for tax purposes." I could tell she was uncomfortable. "Let me see it," I said wearily. Wordlessly, she handed it over. I read through it. "Marie," I said in confusion, "this contract doesn't allow royalties. It doesn't even mention if my name will be on the cover." I shook my head. "I can't sign this." "You must," she insisted. "I know it is not ideal, but some compromises must be made while we work in this old system." I thought back, bewildered, to her last guided meditation, where she had struck a light within us, where she had demanded that we all rise above compromise and self betrayal, that this was the path to creating a new earth of oneness and unity consciousness. "I can tell this isn't what you wanted," Marie went on. "But before you respond," she leaned forward and said earnestly, "what does Mary Magdalene have to say to you?" Exasperated, I said, "I don't need Mary Magdalene to tell me this contract is a bad idea. I would be an idiot to sign this." I stared at the paper, feeling numb. It felt in that moment that a solid thing, a trustworthy thing, was crumbling underneath me. When I looked up again, Maria had leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. She had gone very still. "Marie?" I prodded tentatively. "Babaji is here," she intoned, eyes still closed. "Oh?" "He is laughing at us." Taking a deep breath, I groped for something solid. This was by far the weirdest contract negotiation I had ever sat through. "I am glad," I gritted out, "that this situation is providing so much amusement for Babaji, but maybe we can—" "He says," she interrupted, "that wanting credit for work is silly when there are so many who come together to make it happen. He says no one person is actually doing this work, but many. That it would be impossible to give or take credit in such a way that all are accounted for." I was getting truly angry now. I felt completely blindsided by this conversation. I thought Marie had formed a company that was founded on new ideals. I acknowledged I didn't know anything about royalties and tax laws, but at the very least, maybe we should have had this conversation before I moved to France. Something about this contract felt dirty, like a selling of myself. As reasonable as Marie was probably trying to be in documenting our partnership, all I knew was that it didn't feel good, and I didn't like it. I gave up on the royalties. I understood I would never get those, and I had never really expected them. They weren't the reason I'd wanted to write the book in the first place. But there was something that was incredibly important to me, that I absolutely knew I needed. I took a deep breath. "Someday," I said loudly, "I will be as enlightened as Babaji. But right now, I am not. And I want my name on the cover." She opened her eyes and we stared at each other for a long time. Finally, she left, the contract still sitting on my desk. I put it away unsigned. Something had broken that day. I would write the book. We both knew it. And eventually, I would probably sign that damn contract. But with our conversation that day, and with the paper that now lay heavy between us, I knew that when the book was done, our partnership would be at an end as well. I sat for a long time watching the rain, watching the swallows dip and dart under the eaves. I listened to the fire crackling in the pellet stove. I accepted that I wasn't meant to stay here in France. I was meant to come, to live here for a time, and to learn from the land and the frequencies and the history and the people. I was meant to enjoy this time of solitude in a beautiful, beautiful place. I was meant to write this book, and then it would be time to go. Ultimately, this place, like all the others I had lived, was not my home. It was just another place I had landed for a time.